like a black quarter moon. His claws and 2 horns were smooth and pearly white, and he had dark green spines going down his back, which got smaller on his neck and tail. He locked his vision onto Scott. He looked confused. "Human?" he said in a deep voice, which had a thick Australian accent. He quickly studied the boy. Blue eyes, light brown hair, and slender. "Are you the one who called me?" he asked. Scott was baffled as to how this creature knew English. The dragon thought Scott couldn't understand, so he repeated it louder. "Are you the one who called on me?" Scott was absolutely terrified. He stammered, but finally he managed out a no. "Then how is it," said the dragon, "that you are the only person around that I was altered here? You must have made a dragon call." The dragon wasn't meaning to scare Scott, but Scott didn't know anything beyond St. George as far as dragons went. I don't know. What's the dragon call?" asked Scott timidly. All this time, the dragon had been lowering his head to make an eye contact with his boy, but that terrified Scott even more. "Well, I could show you," said the dragon, trying to be helpful. He lifted his head, drew a deep breath, and whistled, loudly but beautifully. More beautifully than a chorus of birds. Scott never would have thought that such a delicate sound could come from such a large animal. "That was beautiful," said Scott admiringly. "Thank you," said the dragon, a hint of pride in his voice. "That's how dragons talk to each other," he said. Scott got back on track. He thought about the tune he had whistled while he had taken out the garbage. Sure enough, the dragon call was nestled in between the notes of the song. "Oh!" said Scott, realizing his mistake. "I didn't mean to. It was a song I was whistling." Scott whistled the song to the dragon. "It actually translates in dragon's lips," said the dragon. Then he said, "We will gather at the coal, we will gather at the coal. Come from this time of for all, and all will join to the coal." Scott was surprised. "Wow, so so I was actually talking to you without knowing," he said. "Indeed," said the dragon. Scott was now getting comfortable talking with the dragon. "Say," said Scott, "what's your name?" The dragon replied, "My name? I have never really had a human name before." "Well, my name is Scott Jacob Willis," said Scott. "You can name me if you like," said the dragon. Scott's face lit up. "Really?" he said. "Sure," the dragon said. He then laid down and stretched. He invited Scott to sit next to him, and he did so, cautiously. He still didn't know if this was a trap. Scott got to work. He thought hard for a good name. Some of his first ideas were Flame, Eagle, Emerald, and Jabari, which means fearless. The dragon was skeptical, and thought all these things were terrible, especially Jabari. Scott stood up and started to pace. He always paced when he was racking in his mind on something. He was getting desperate. He looked at his watch. It read 4:30. He needed to name the dragon, getting him off his yard, and finish his homework all before his parents got home at 6 o'clock. He tried to think, but his mind just went blank. He tried to pull something out of the air. He then noticed a scar behind the dragon's fin-like ear. Just as the dragon was about to fall asleep in the grass, Scott blurted, "Skardek!" The dragon lifted his head. "That's the one! That's my name?" said the dragon asked. "Yep," said Scott, satisfied. The dragon thought over it for a while and said, "I like it. Now I have a name humans can call me by." "What do other dragons call you by?" asked Scott. The dragon, whom we'll now call Skardek, answered with a whistle. "It means dauntless warrior," he said. "Well, I guess it's time to say goodbye," said Scott. Skardek stood up and stretched. "Goodbye, mate," he replied. He let out a sharp whistle and went flying off, the gust of his wings nearly knocking Scott to the ground. Scott walked inside, thinking about what had just happened that afternoon. Scott has grown up now, and has met many dragons in his so far short yet eventful life. But he can still recall, to the word of the conversation they had had that day, for that is the day the famous Scott Jacob Willis first met a dragon. To him, it looked like he would be seeing Skardek again.
Hello, mate. I'm Skardek. I'm going to tell you to read Night of the Dragon. It's a book written by Dawson Vosburg. It's really lovely. It was made by my friend, I forget his name, Scott. Yeah, wonderful. I love caramel candy. That's all I can say. Yeah, so get that up in your local stores. Buy it. Listen to it. Listen to the audiobook with me, Skardek. So that you don't have to imagine on your Australian accent because you got it right there. Beauty. Then you can just eat a lot of caramel candy like I'm doing. Alright.